Broadcasting live from the School of Athens, this is Europe and the People Without History with Mr. Olson, everyone's favorite AP World History Review Service. So today I'm going to try and quell some anxieties and talk about how to analyze a document quickly. So some basic overview to get out of the way before we really dive into how to quickly analyze a document. There are some things that go into analyzing a document that cannot be helped in the moment or the week leading up to an AP test. So it's important for you to know that one's reading comprehension and their reading speed are determined well before they get into an AP history class. With that said, that means a week out from a test, you are not going to be able to improve these things immensely. That's why you're given primary sources and textbook readings throughout the year to build up one's reading ability. If you decided to turn your back on those, well, you're in some real trouble. But I do have some good news. There is a way for you to improve your ability to analyze a document quickly. You can get better at reading comprehension and reading speed by practice. So there's limited time to practice, but there is a way to do it. So here's one way that AP World History student can go about practicing for reading comprehension and analyzing a document. If you go to Google and type in AP World History FRQ, and then any year, can be any year recently, I would start 2016 and later, and type in free response questions, the first link that comes up should bring you to the various free response questions from that particular year. Once you scroll through the short answer questions, you'll eventually get to the DBQ and the long essays. Once you find question number 1, you'll be at the DBQ right where you want to be. There's a prompt which you need to read and take note of before you move on to the documents. Otherwise, you'll have no idea what the documents are pertaining to. Once you've done that, you can move down to document 1, and alas, you have a document that you can read, note the main idea of, and practice sourcing in a quick fashion. Now, how do you check whether you're good at it or not? Well, if you go back to Google and type in AP World History FRQ 2019 scoring guidelines, that brings up the answer key. Voila, it's like math class in the back of the book. How wonderful. If you click on the first link that comes up, you will be at the scoring guidelines and all the answers to that year's test, which I know human geo test takers are already experts at. But if you scroll all the way down, you'll find a chart that has the summary of content and potential sourcing for each document. So there you have it, a nice way to practice and several documents at your disposal. I know that most AP World History students don't have documents just laying around the house for them to analyze, so this is a good way for you to go and look ones up that you can practice with. Okay, so now things to keep in mind when you're trying to analyze a document quickly. Your goal is to move fast, and when you move fast, some things might not be focused in on, and you cannot obsess over something. I don't know about you, but when I read a document and I find something that makes me wonder, I get caught down a rabbit's hole and search through it for hours. So you have to remind yourself that you're doing it quickly and you can't go down that rabbit's hole. Okay, keep in mind the prompt when you're reading or looking at a document. No historian analyzes a document's quote just for fun. There's always a purpose involved. Either they've given themselves a prompt or the prompt has been given to them from the outside. So for you guys, the prompt is given to you from the outside, so you have to have that in mind when analyzing the document. Your next goal is to isolate the main idea or the main content of the document. Try and connect it to any specific events, figures, places, or developments, if possible. This is easier if you pay careful attention to the source information. It might be able to influence how you read the document. For example, if one of the documents on a DBQ is Simone Bolivar's Jamaica letter, well, that might influence how you read the document because you should already know what that is. Of course, as you're reading through, keep in the back of your mind any potential sourcing, historical context, audience, purpose, or point of view to speed that up down the road. So let's practice. Let's assume we have a prompt. The prompt says, evaluate the extent to which the Industrial Revolution shaped the development of non-European regions in the period 1750 to 1900. Okay. Basically just asking me how the Industrial Revolution that began in England affected places not England. All right, so let's assume I have a document and the document is written by none other than Karl Marx. Okay, so I'm reading through it and I begin with the source information. Karl Marx writing an article called The Future Results of British Rule in India, and it's published in the New York Daily Tribune, which is an American newspaper in 1853. All right, so I'm about 100 years out from the Industrial Revolution, don't really know any other specifics about 1853, so I'll move on to the document content and hope that it triggers something in me. All right, so he writes, steam has brought India into regular and rapid communication with Europe, has connected its chief ports with those of the whole Southeastern Ocean. The day is not far distant when, by a combination of railways and steam vessels, the distance between England and India measured by time will be shortened to 8 days, and when that once fabulous country will thus be annexed to the Western world. You cannot maintain a net of railways over an immense country without introducing all those industrial processes necessary to meet the immediate and current wants of railway locomotion. The railway system will therefore become, in India, a truly the forerunner of modern industry. The Indians will not reap the fruits of the new elements of society scattered among them by the British bourgeoisie, till in Great Britain itself the now ruling classes shall have been supplanted by the industrial proletariat, or till the Hindus themselves shall have grown a strong enough to throw off the English yoke altogether. Okay, so the first paragraph has in it some important things to note. One, that steam is being introduced into India and it's bringing it into more rapid communication with Europe. Okay, and it's turning India, which was once a fabulous country, into a sort of offshoot of the Western world. Okay, now if I move on in the document, this next paragraph tells me that if India is going to build this massive railway network, it's going to need industrialization, which means following the railway will be modern industry. And if modern industry comes, well, then it's important to note that since the British will be the ones bringing it, it will be the British bourgeoisie, not Indians, benefiting from this, okay? And if we're going to change it, then either the working class in Great Britain or the working class in India will have to throw off the English yoke altogether. That makes me think of something. There was an attempt of native Indians to throw off the yoke of English oppression. Now I'm ready to source. So if I were to move on to sourcing, I can just make a quick note. And just so everybody at home who is playing along knows, you do not have to think through all four of these. I'm just going to do it as sort of a model, but if I were you, I would try and stick to only one. So possible historical context. Well, he's talking about Indians revolting, and I know about that Sepoy Mutiny, which happened in 1857. Close enough. Otherwise, just general industrial revolution talk should be good enough. The audience is an American newspaper. Well, why would an American newspaper be important here? Why would he be publishing that in America, not in England? Well, he probably could have published it in England. It just so happens that he was on contract with the New York Daily Tribune at the time. But let's go out on a limb and say, well, if we can get Americans to disapprove of what Britain is doing, they can be challenged. Okay, so Britain can be challenged if we can get the Americans on board to challenge their hegemony. Purpose, obviously, is to call into question industrial growth in India, and point of view, obviously, Karl Marx, Communist Manifesto, communism, socialism, the whole works. Obviously, he is a champion of the working class, and therefore he is going to take their side instead of that of the industrialists. Okay, so if anything, I hope that this has encouraged you to be able to read a document quickly and might even bring some peace to your understanding of that process. Okay, so